Hi. Once this video disappears, it's gone because it's only one of its kind, and I'm just going to be reading an article I came upon. And hey, if it disappears, if this video disappears, go ahead. I think it will be because it doesn't show Islam in a good light. And Al-Blamer said when he was blaming a YouTube video for causing Benghazi, even though it didn't, he said, make no mistake, there must be no future for those that slander the Prophet of Islam. And in Islam, you know what slandering the Prophet of Islam is? It's just being critical of Islam. That's all. And there must be no future for those, according to Al-Blamer. Anyway, I found this article and I thought I'd read it to you. So, okay. I'll read it to you. See what you think. Anyway, the series I'm writing, that I'm going to be reading onto here after this is continuing. But the thing is, I think my camera is going to die. The video, the battery is going to be gone, so I think I'll do the rest of it probably tomorrow. Yeah. So I'll charge the battery and then do it tomorrow. And so far the video series is called the Muslim Who Will Not Die. But you know, because he just doesn't go away. He just keeps on coming and coming and coming. He's a real jihadi of the pen, if you know what I mean. And I think that's pretty cool because it gives me a chance to expose Islam with him. Okay, here it is. The World Post. I think this is from the Huffington Post of all places. Alright. The horror before the beheadings, NewYorkTimes.com. The hostages were taken out of their cell one by one. In a private room, the captors asked each one of them 3 intimate questions, a standard technique used to obtain proof that a prisoner is still alive in kidnapping. Oh shoot! You know, I think my computer has a virus because it freezes up, so I can't really make the thing go forward. But I'll try it again here. Alright. Yeah, it's not going down. Oh, maybe now. Let's see here. I'll try it. Try it now. Gosh darn it. Oh, strange. So they just keep on looking at me. Yeah. Well, I'll try it again. Now what the heck? Should I wait for it? This is going to be by the way, there's another video I'm going to present since this one's not letting me read what I want to see from the World Post. Oh, it's working now. Okay, well, we'll see here. Alright, here. Alright. Oh, shoot. If that's not much to it. Oh, read the whole story. Okay, read the whole story, yeah. I have to go to read the whole story. So you have to click on it. And now it'll probably take even longer here. Well, we'll see. I'll get to you. Okay, it's called ISIS Hostages Endured Torture and Dashed Hopes, Freed Cellmate Says. So we'll find out what the Religion of Peace did to these guys. By the way, David Wood presented 10 reasons from the 10 scriptures from the Quran to show you where ISIS gets its inspiration from. Yeah. Okay. The horror before beheadings. ISIS hostage endured torture and dashed hopes. Freed cellmate says. back out of here. Yeah. Oh, you know, it looks like it might be kind of long. Okay, well, I'll make a part 2 then. Okay. Alright. The hostages are taken out of their cells one by one. In a private room, the captors asked each one of them 3 intimate questions, a standard technique used to obtain proof that a prisoner is still alive in a kidnapping negotiation. James Foley returned to the cell he shared with nearly 24 other Western hostages and collapsed in tears of joy. The questions his kidnappers had asked were so personal. Who cried at your brother's wedding? Who was the captain of your high school soccer team? That he knew they were finally in touch with his family. It was December 2013, and more than a year had passed since Mr. Foley vanished on a road in northern Syria. Finally, his worried parents would know he was alive. He told his fellow captives his government, he believed, would soon negotiate for his release. What happened to be a turning point was, in fact, the start of a downward spiral for Mr. Foley, a 40-year-old journalist who ended in August when he was forced to his knees somewhat in the bald hills of Syria and beheaded as the camera rolled. Okay. This video was publicly ended. Okay. The videotape death was very public and end to a hidden ordeal. The story of what happened in the Islamic State's underground network of prisoners in Syria is one of excruciating suffering. Mr. Foley and his fellow hostages were routinely beaten and subjected to waterboarding for months. You want to know something? Muslims should have no problem with waterboarding because they wash their nose out 3 times in the morning to get Satan out of their nose. Because according to Muhammad, when you're asleep, Satan sleeps in the upper interior of your nose, and it takes 3 washings to get him out. So it's like it's like a Muslim waterboards himself every morning just to get Satan out of his nose. And I don't know about you, but if Satan sleeps in my nose, like Muhammad says, he doesn't interfere with my breathing or sense of smell. And according to Muhammad, that when the azan goes off, Satan farts to keep from hearing it. He passes wind, and it's 24 hours a day. I mean, it's every hour. He farts every hour because Muslims pray 24 hours a day, and if he farts, then I don't smell anything when I'm sleeping, you know, or when I never smell anything in the nighttime, you know, because you know it's supposed to be farting every hour, you know, every time the azan is going. But anyway. So Muslims shouldn't have a problem with waterboarding because they wash their nose out 3 times a morning to get Satan out. Anyway, the story continues here. For months, they were starved and threatened with execution by one group of fighters, only to be handed off to another group and brought them sweets and contemplated freeing them. The prisoners banded together, playing games to pass the endless hours, but as conditions grew more desperate, they turned on one another. Some, including Mr. Foley, sought comfort in the faith of their captors, embracing Islam and taking Muslim names. Yeah. They even became Muslims to try to keep from getting killed. Moral of the story is, don't even accept Islam. Be yourself to the very end. Be like John Wayne in the movie The Cowboys. You know, he never backed down to the evil that was around him. I know it's fiction, but still it made a great story. Their captivity coincided with the rise of the group that came to be known as the Islamic State out of the chaos of the Syrian civil war. It did not exist on the day Mr. Foley was abducted, but it slowly grew to become the most powerful and feared rebel movement in the region. By the second year of Mr. Foley's imprisonment, the group had amassed close to 24 hostages and devised a strategy to trade them for cash. You know, it's holding people for ransom is an Islamic thing, and it's sanctioned by the Hadith. They can hold women for ransom in the Hadith. They even get them pregnant. You know, doesn't matter if they're married. You can still get them pregnant, according to the Hadith. That's the Muslim Hadith I'm familiar with. It was backed up by that's Sahih Muslim 834-32 and 834-33, but there's also one about holding them ransom and having sex with them. And then, of course, there's Sunan Abu Dawud 221-50, which allows a Muslim to even have sex with the captured women in the presence of their non-Muslim husbands. It was at that, which is a very ISIS thing. Yeah. It was at this point that the hostages' journeys, which had been largely similar up to then, diverged based on actions taken thousands of miles away in Washington and Paris and Madrid, Rome and beyond. Mr. Foley was one of the last of at least 23 Western hostages from 12 countries, a majority of them citizens of European nations whose government had a history of paying ransoms. And holding people for ransom is fine in Islam. The struggle for survival, which is being told now for the first time, was pieced together through interviews with 5 former hostages, locals who witnessed their treatment, relatives and colleagues of the captives, and a tight circle of advisors who made trips to the region to try to win their release. Crucial details were confirmed by the former members of the Islamic State, also known as ISIS, who was initially stationed in the prison where Mr. Foley was held, and he provided previous unknown details of his captivity. The ordeal has remained largely secret because the militants warned the hostages' families not to go to the news media, threatening to kill their loved ones if they did. The New York Times is naming only those who already identified publicly by the Islamic State, which began naming them in August. Officials in the United States say they did everything in their power to save Mr. Foley and the others, including carrying out a failed rescue operation. They argue that the United States policy of not paying ransom saves American lives in the long run by making them less attractive targets. I hate to say it, but I think America is right not to pay the release because then they just capture more. Exactly. Inside their concrete box, the hostages did not know what their families or government were doing on their behalf. They slowly pieced it together using the only information they had, the interactions with their guards and with one another. Mostly they suffered, waiting for any sign that they might escape with their lives. The grab. It was only a 40-minute drive to the Turkish border, but Mr. Foley decided to make one last stop. In Benish, Syria, 2 years ago, Mr. Foley and his traveling companion, the British photojournalist John Cantley, he couldn't lie, pulled into an internet cafe to file their work. The two were no strangers to the perils of reporting in Syria. Only a few months ago, Mr. Cantley had been kidnapped a few dozen miles from Benish. He had tried to escape barefoot and handcuffed, running for his life as bullets kicked up the dirt, only to be caught again. He was released a week later after moderate rebels intervened. In other words, Minos, Muslim name only. They were unloading their images when a man walked in. But he had a big beard. He had the big beard, said Mustafa Ali, the Syrian translator who was with them and recounted their final hours together. He didn't smile or say anything, and he looked at us with evil eyes. Then went to the computer and sat for 1 minute only, and then left directly. Said Mr. Ali said he wasn't a Syrian. He looked like he was from the Gulf. Mr. Foley, an American freelance journalist, filing for Global Post and continued transmitting their footages, according to Mr. Ali, whose account was confirmed by emails and journalists sent from the cafe to a colleague waiting for them in Turkey. I guess I'll continue. I don't know if this is going to upload because it's all, what the heck, I'll better stop here. Yeah, I better stop here, but I'll do part 2 coming up, yeah.